back, fam, to my channel. I am Mr. Carnage, and I'm glad you're all here. Here's the other thing that we're going to be doing on this channel. So, other than reaction videos, um, it's also going to be videos as well about like music news, current events, stuff like that. Nothing political. I'd like to keep that as far off of my channel as possible, please. If we could just do that, that'd be great. So, the topic today is the top 10 bands, or groups, I should say, that should be in the Hall of Fame, but are not, and have been snubbed. Um, there are a lot of good bands out there that have been, just influential to so many others, and have done a lot of good music, and have put out a lot of good music, and has just completely been snubbed by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I would like your guys' opinion, so, either you agree with the bands, don't agree with the bands, who do you think should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Definitely leave that in the comments below. Let's go ahead and let's get started with this. So, the one thing that you're going to hear a lot of times is that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is only for people in rock and roll. And the reason why I can disprove that is not because there are already hip hop and rap artists in in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has different genres of rock, and what I mean by that is you don't see a lot of country artists get in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they kind of have their own. And technically, country music was around before rock and roll was. Country was kind of an offspring of old like folk and gospel music, and we're going back to like the late 1800s even. So country is not really rock and roll, and you may see a few country artists that get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just based on the fact that they did some kind of rock and roll. Now, the reason why hip hop and rap and R&B are technically in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is that when hip hop first started out, they actually used a lot of old rock and roll and disco, records to make their beats and to make the flow, and then they would just start rhyming over those sounds. So the early stages of hip hop was actually done that way. So they used those those rock and roll sounds to make music. So in a lot of ways, hip hop is kind of we'll just call it like a second cousin of rock and roll. So that's why you do see hip hop artists get in. And I do believe that hip hop artists have a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe someday they'll make a rap Hall of Fame. I don't think so. Honestly, but it is possible. So we're going to go with the top 10 biggest snubs, in my opinion, when it comes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we're starting off with this group here. This is Iron Maiden. Now, Iron Maiden has been kind of the forefront of metal for a long time. You can class them up there with guys like Ozzy and Black Sabbath, AC/DC bands like that. How they are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet is just beyond me. They definitely are one of those grandfathers of metal type bands that should definitely be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And next, we've got Rage Against the Machine. Now, this is where people may agree or disagree, but Rage Against the Machine kind of made their own style of music. They took elements of hip hop and rap and metal, and then even like alternative rock, and kind of collided it together to make music. And some of their CDs, albums, have been great. Obviously, I got all these albums behind me, so I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. Um, but Rage Against the Machine was definitely one of those bands that kind of started that rock, hip hop, like new age type in the early 90s that was kind of catchy. And they definitely, I think, have a spot in the Hall of Fame. And then next we've got somebody who should have been in this year and was completely snubbed. No offense to Nine Inch Nails, um, but when I think of somebody who's contributed more in the sense of music itself, rock and roll as itself, Pat Benatar, um, her and her husband have been just huge. Um, I mean, in the 80s, Pat Benatar, I don't think there was a woman, let alone a band, alive that was topping some of her charts. I mean, she was just putting out good and amazing music. To see her snub this year was, in my opinion, kind of a slap in the face, to be honest. I mean, she definitely belonged in the Hall of Fame. Same with these guys, Soundgarden. The reason I showed both of these for 2020's inductees that got snubbed was that Soundgarden was as influential in the grunge scene as Nirvana was, or Alice in Chains for that matter. Chris Cornell was definitely one of those, godfathers of grunge. How they ended up not getting in is beyond me. Um, Made a lot of good music. I mean, Black Hole Sun to this day is still one of like the top singles of the 90s. I mean, that song literally lasted through the 90s. So, rest in peace, Chris. That's a snub, man. Then we got, this is John Coltrane. This is another huge snub to me. John Coltrane was talented. I mean, just absolutely talented. The guy in the 50s playing that saxophone of his. I mean, there's probably not anybody better that can just pick up a saxophone and just go to town. He also did music with guys like B.B. King and stuff like that too. Was a big inspiration to a lot of R&B artists over the years, and even into like the 70s with some disco. So how he's not in, I don't know. Then Outkast. Now I know some of you guys are thinking like there's a lot better groups out there, or even rappers out there that belong in, but Outkast is definitely one of those guys that he pioneered his own style of rap, like that southern, that like southern ha rap, like in your face type rap, before him there was no southern rap. You had West Coast, East Coast, the gangster rap, that sort of stuff. So I think Outkast was a huge pioneer in what kind of led to the early 2000s style of rap. So I think without Outkast, a lot of that 2000, that early 2000 rap wouldn't have existed. Then we got Korn. Now, to me, the reason why Korn belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is that they started their own wave of metal called nu metal, and they pioneered from like the early 90s on. A lot of bands kind of followed suit, like Papa Roach, Slipknot, Static X. There's a lot of those bands that kind of took Korn's sound and went with it. So I think that Korn, without a doubt, was pioneers. They made their own style of metal, and most definitely belong in the Hall of Fame. And then we have Snoop Dogg. Now, NWA got in, And I do actually think that Dr. Dre should get in solo just for his contributions to music. Case in point, Snoop. Snoop would not have been as big as he was if he did not get signed by Death Row and that first album of his be done by Dr. Dre. I don't think it would have ever. I don't think Snoop would have ever platformed. Honestly, the story was that he went to a few different like low case record companies, and spit some bars, and the beats weren't that great, and he wasn't happy with it or satisfied with it. So, I guess, right person, right time, so to speak. So Snoop definitely belongs, in my opinion. NWA got in, Run DMC got in, the Beastie Boys got in. Like I said, Dre deserves to be in solo just for his contributions to hip hop as a total. And then I think that Snoop definitely right there with them. And then same thing with Ice-T. I think Ice-T belongs for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons I think he belongs is he was kind of the first person to start that gangster rap. People say it was NWA. Um, I think NWA, in my opinion, like modified it, made it more mainstream. But Ice-T was definitely the guy that, without a doubt, he was the pioneer, in my opinion, of gangster rap. And I'm not sure that Ice Cube and Dre, had they not heard that first CD from Ice-T, would have used that kind of as a springboard to make gangster rap and really start making NWA the way it was. If you ask all of them, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Yellow, they'll all tell you that Ice-T was their biggest inspiration. So definitely belongs, in my opinion. And then this is Ministry. The reason why Ministry belongs, honestly, is that they literally made their own entire genre of music in the early 80s. He was going with the synth pop feel, like when he released Every Day is Halloween. Other bands were doing that, the Smiths, the Cure, but he just went hardcore. I mean, just lost it. And then he made his own entire style called industrial metal. And I don't think there was a band, powerhouse-wise, back then that was even close. In fact, Nine Inch Nails probably wouldn't exist without Ministry. So how Nine Inch Nails got in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Ministry getting snubbed is beyond me. Ministry belongs. They started industrial metal, and there are 3 other industrial metal bands in the Hall of Fame, none of which would be there without Ministry. So those are my 10 bands that I believe have been snubbed massively and have contributed to music more than a lot of the bands that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They started their own genres of music, or they at least modified genres of music to make them more mainstream. But all of them have been huge pioneers in the music world. So, tell me what you guys think. Do you agree with these 10 bands? Do you think somebody else is more deserving than these 10 bands? Just let me know in the comments below, and we will catch you on the next video. Bye.